Hey friends, this is Bill McDonald, the ELAR writing doctor, and today I'm going to do the second part of our GPS, getting pretty specific, zooming in with geography, spelling, punctuation, capitalization, and because they're going to hear the words in context, context is basically a grammatical term saying how is it being used, its usage. So what usage is basically is the subject has to agree with the verb. How is that word being used in a sentence? That way I know which spelling to use, how to change the punctuation. Is it a proper noun or a common noun? Do I use capitalization? So this is part 5 of many videos for the you guys that are doing swag. This is spelling writing across grade levels and spelling writing across subjects because I want to make sure that when my kids are doing Texas history or geography, that they're going to know the names of all the places from what we did in part 1, their street, their apartment, their their complex subdivision, the name of it, their actual address, the school's address, and we stopped at city. So we're going to broaden out now on this part of the video and practice spelling. We're going to listen for singular or for plural. For singular possessive, where we have to put an apostrophe where something belongs to something. And if you think of it like this, say up apostrophes and commas come on down. Those two look the same, but they're different. And so your students have to think an apostrophe, A, is up in the air, and a comma comes on down. And so because a comma is not stopping the sentence, it's just slowing it down, I would suggest that you think of a different place to have an imaginary ball, and we would put it on a table for a comma and a period, exclamation and question mark. You could bounce your ball on the floor. And when we get to sentences, we're going to be talking about how to use the red stop sign, a red ball, for punctuation. We're doing slinkies, then we would open the slinky 1 inch for each word. We would bend it low for a comma, bend it up high for apostrophes, contractions, opening and closing quotations. We would bend it low for, in the upper grades, colons and semicolons, colons and semicolons. And we would stop the sentence when we get to a period, an exclamation, and a question mark. So the only marks, if you think of a sentence like a street, that are going to be red are periods, exclamations, and question marks, because a sentence is like a street that has a bunch of signs, and we don't stop until the end of the street. And all the other signs are going to be yellow, like my background there. And that's why I have my yellow background. We're going to figure out, when do we use apostrophes in spelling? When do we use plural, plural possessives? When do we change a common noun to a proper noun, where we put a capital? And if you're practicing editing rules, you'll underline. So let's begin the modeling. This video is going to go from number 7, county, and all the versions of county, to number 12, our solar system. All right. Now, the reason I have Texas there in the background is because part 2 of the video is going to be utilizing proper nouns using the state of Texas and all of its surrounding uh, it's a surrounding country, some major cities in Texas, proper nouns, the surrounding states, and a couple of surrounding bodies of water. So pay close attention to the shape of Texas. It's not perfect, it's not exact, but that's about as close as you can get, because what you're going to need today for this video is a regular line piece of notebook paper to kind of follow along and practice the skills. You're going to need a white sheet of paper just from uh, maybe one of your computer printers or something like that. And because I used yellow and red, if you can get some yellow and red crayons or colored pencils for the spelling portion, and get some green and add some green, black, and blue for the geography portion when we talk about the spelling of proper nouns. And I just want to tell you that my son Israel was put into a UIL meet, and it was a spelling competition. And he's really good at spelling, but he didn't ever go to any practice sessions. So when he wrote all of his spelling words, the cool thing was that he got a perfect score. He got every single one of the spelling words right. So he got first place, comma, but somebody who was one of the judges happened to notice that every single word my son wrote on the spelling list began with a capital. The problem with that is none of them were proper nouns. And so to make sure that you hold your kids accountable, they have to pay attention to, is this a common or a proper noun? And these are going to be places, specific locations where we are in the world. And so what the only part we're going to do on usage is not writing them out in a sentence. They're just gonna, your students are gonna hear them in a sentence. To hear them in context, I'll say the word once and I'll use it in a sentence once. And it's very important that you tell your kids capital follow oral, comma, written, comma, and visual instructions, plural, the first time there, they are given, period. And so when a student hears you say the word and the sentence and watches you do something visually showing you that there's going to be a ball tossed up, that needs to show them that there's some sort of apostrophe up there, contraction, or possibly some opening or closing quotations. So when a student asks you, you're on, let's say you're on number 12, and they ask you for number 7, they weren't following your oral, written, or visual instructions. So if they ask you for number 7 and they don't have an accommodation that says you give them extra time or extra times, you're going to have to be strict and say, I'm sorry, sweetheart, number 7 is X. You're going to get it wrong. I would rather give you a lower grade and make you pay attention more, because there has to be a reward for listening, a higher grade, and a consequence for not paying attention. Because the more that you tell your kids, who needs number 7, who needs number 12, the lower they're going to raise their standards. And it's not being mean, it's just being strict, because we never want to be that teacher who sounds like Charlie Brown, apostrophe S, teacher. That teacher belongs to Charlie Brown, okay? Who sounds like this. Wah, 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 wah. That means that our kids are hearing us, comma, but they're, they are not listening. So I toss the ball up on that contraction, separate the they from the are, because every time there's a contraction, it means that you can possibly separate. And we'll worry about that a little bit later on when we get more into the next part. So this is swag spelling writing across grades, across subjects, because this one is about Texas history, geography, and we're going to go all the way out to the United States and continents and solar systems and galaxies. But part of cups for the editing is the S. And so we're going to get to kill several birds with one stone with you guys that are doing the editing webinar, practicing the spelling of the word, the punctuation, if there's any possessives in it, singular or plural, the capitalization if we name the location, and paying close attention to the usage. Which one are we using? It depends how it's used in the sentence. And so your kids are going to be able to hear me and see me saying the word in a sentence using the analogy of the ball. So without further ado, let's go ahead. I'm going to click share screen, advanced using my Zoom program, content from a second camera. And there's my second camera right here. And so our title, we already did numbers 1 through 6 on part 1 of this video. And this is just the one and only free sample that all of you that are curious about what does swag look like? That one's $10. What does the editing webinar look like? You have to remember that this year, all the students from 3rd through 8th grade are going to get field tested items on editing and revising. And editing is cups with 2 S's, capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling. And we're going to practice all of those inside this lesson here. And specifically spelling, the spelling of all of these that you see here is correct. It's just depending on how it's being used. So usage, but we're also going to be able to understand that if I teach Texas history, I'm gonna be probably saying several of these vocabulary words. If I teach US history, world history, or world geography, Texas geography, US geography, I'm gonna be able to need to know some of these things. All right, so number 7, I'm gonna model all of these for you. You're Go ahead, and if you can skip some lines the way that you see me doing it there. Number 7 is county, and I hold up one finger, county, singular. This county has had a lot of rain this past week. County, singular. 7b, singular to plural, counties. All of the counties in South Texas have experienced lots of rain as well. C, O, U, and T is the same, but the consonant Y rule that changes singular to plural says drop the Y and add I, E, S. Counties. Then I would suggest you say the second portion, county, singular, possessive. And if you notice, I'm gonna make sure that you see I've done a yellow circle there. It's very hard to see yellow when you're doing a Zoom lesson. What that means is whatever the next word is, I'm gonna draw a possession wall, and whatever that next word is belongs to one county. On the second one that we look at, whatever this next word is belongs to counties. So it's called in my classroom a possession wall. That way they can realize, oh, this one belongs to counties, plural. This one here belongs to county, singular. So it would look like this: county, C, and I'm pretending to jump rope, O, U, N, T, Y, exactly the same as singular, but counties, apostrophe, apostrophe, S. Okay? The county's drainage has to have been pretty good because of all this rain. The counties, singular, possessive, apostrophe, and then S. 7D, counties. You see, plural counties, apostrophe, contraction. The county's cooperation in flooding is crucial in order for us to be able to not have people or property getting damaged. So the cooperation is going to be owned by the counties, that all the counties have to get together and help each other with sandbags and with pumping water to different locations in the city. And we will practice the name of a county. So instead of writing Hidalgo County, I would suggest that you have your students write the name of their county. And if they don't know it, this is their opportunity to know the name of their county. Capital Hidalgo. Make sure the I has a dot, not a heart, a star, or a circle. All right. County, capital C. And so that has to be a little bit taller than the C that we use for a common noun. Capital C Ounty. Number 8, let's get a little bit bigger than a county, a state. If you ask your students, what state do you live in? Some kids will say the name of their county or their city because they don't know the difference. And so will be able to fix this during this geography slash spelling lesson. State, singular. I love the state that I live in, that one right there. And make sure you're paying attention to what it looks like, because I would love for you to be able to draw that from your memory as best as you can so we can practice the proper nouns that are in Texas and surround it. States, plural. Since the E is there, I just typically add an S to most words that end with an E. States, states. And so I'm holding up multiple fingers so they know it's singular, but it's not this states or this states. You see how they sound the same? That's why it's important to do something verbal, visual, and or kinesthetic. 8C, state, singular, possessive. The state's governor lives in Austin, Texas. So that means the governor is the one who's in charge of the state. He doesn't necessarily own it, but he's been selected to be the leader of our state. And again, we have the red, this whatever this is, the governor is the one who runs the state. He's in charge of it. Belongs, our state, the governor that belongs to Texas is Mr. Abbott. 8D, states, apostrophe. The states, apostrophe, in other words, more than one. Border is, border city is Texarkana. Basically, the reason they came up with that city, it's a city that kind of is a combination, partly in Texas and partly in Arkansas, which we'll learn in part B. So plural possessive, the name of our state. So I'm going to put the state that we live in. If you're not from Texas, go ahead and put your state if your school is not in Texas. Ours is in Texas, so we'll say capital T E X A S. And just a teachable moment of instruction, when you abbreviate states, you put both letters in capital with no punctuation. They kind of used to have it a different way, capital T, capital X. And then what I would love to know is if you were born in a different state or if you've been in a different state, go ahead and write that one as well for extra practice. Maine is where I was born, capital M-A-I-N-E. And so make sure you notice that there's a difference between the state and a street, because if I live on Main Street, we drop the E. If I live in the state of Maine on Main Street, one of them has the E and one of them doesn't. And it's capital M, capital E. Let's get a little bit bigger and go to our country. I see the consonant Y, so we'll get to practice that singular to plural consonant Y rule. Country, singular. Our country has gone through a lot of turmoil, vocabulary, these past 18 months or so. C-O-U-N-T-R-Y. So when you're spelling out those words and you're allowing the kids to check, make sure they're paying attention to the words. They can either say it with you or they can echo. So if you have an echo, you would say C, C, O, O, U, N, N, T, T, R, R, Y. And that way your students are actually taking a picture of every single letter one at a time, and they're not just seeing the word, they're saying the word. And because they're echoing, they're hearing the word. And remember, the domains of reading and writing are speaking, listening, reading, and writing. Well, sometimes you listen first, then you speak, and then you can write. Sometimes you see something first and you can say it. That way you can hear it and then be able to write it. Okay? Countries, plural. And I didn't throw a ball up. That means it's just more than one. The countries north and south of ours are named Canada to the north and excuse me, Mexico to the south. Country, singular, possessive. Our country, apostrophe S, something that belongs to our country. Our country's athletes are about to compete in the Olympics. Excuse me. So because you, and if you can see, I circled them yellow, means we're going to slow down the word and put apostrophe. And so what you might do is use a hula hoop, and you could practice country using a real or fake hula hoop. C-O-U-N-T-R-Y. N T R Y. It just looks like singular. And we toss the imaginary ball up. Apostrophe while we're doing that. S. And I can either trust the students with a real hula hoop or jump rope and a ball, or they can imagine doing it because they won't be dropping the hula hoop and they won't be having the ball go all over the place. Somebody asked me in my training last week, do you trust the entire class with a ball or a slinky or a hula hoop or the little skip it thing that you put around your ankle? I said, no, sometimes I can only trust one person in the whole class, me. And so I would do it. And as you build responsibility and accountability in your classroom, more and more students will be allowed to be trusted to make the spelling and the punctuation and the capitalization more fun by having a real ball, a real slinky, a real cap for capitalization, and a real skip it. So something to think about. Makes the lesson a little bit more interesting if somebody in the classroom actually gets to be doing it with a real uh, toy that we turn into a tool. Number 9, D, is countries. Countries, possessive, plural, possessive. The countries' borders are completely different from each other when you compare the northern border to Canada to the southern border to Mexico. The name of our country, capital United, capital States, and down of capital America, or if we abbreviate, capital U, period, capital S, period, capital A, United States of America. We don't put the O in there. All right, number 10. Let's get a little bit bigger than a country, a continent. It's not a consonant Y, so this is one where we just add the S. Continent. So you raise one finger. Continent, singular. Our continent is warm during spring and summer and cold during the fall and the winter. Now, I'm not talking about all of our continent because if you live in Texas like me, then it seems like it hardly ever gets cold, but we do have a couple of months. All right. Continents, plural. Continents. There are 7, if I'm not mistaken, major continents, plural, in our planet, on our planet. Now we get the ball and ball, so we'll probably use the hula hoop again. Continent, singular, possessive. It belongs to one continent. The continents, pollution seems to be getting worse by the year. Continents, pollution, that means we're only talking about the pollution that belongs to one continent. Okay, so let's see how that works with the hula hoop and the imaginary ball. CONTINENT And so because your lesson needs to be more focused on the skill, not the ability to do a hula hoop and do an imaginary ball, I would suggest when you're first learning it that you just do it with pretend hula hoops and bouncy balls and allow your students, the ones, let's say a reward for a high score can be the 2 students or the 3 students with the highest score get to use a real ball, slinky, hula hoop, or a skip it to practice these skills. Okay. Number 10D, continents, plural, possessive. The continents separation on our planet is so large that we often need ships or planes to get from one to the other. Continents, plural, possessive. The separation of the continents is what we're talking about. Proper noun. Proper noun, capital, underline. So the name of our continent is Capital North, Capital America. So if I was doing my little hula hoop, capital, North, capital America. 11, planet. I'm going to go a little bit faster now. Planet, singular, Planet. I love the planet I live on. Planets, plural. The planets around Earth are Venus and Mars. Notice I didn't put a comma because there's only 2 planets that we were talking about comparing our planet. Okay? Planet, singular, possessive. The planets rotation in a complete circle happens once a day every 24 hours. Planet, singular, possessive. The, the rotation belongs to the planet. Planets, plural, possessive. Planets, apostrophe, plural, possessive. The planets' revolution around our sun takes different times. Our planet, singular, possessive, revolution around the sun takes approximately 1 year, which causes the 4 seasons. So depending on where we are in position relative to the sun, we're going to be in spring, summer, winter, or fall. Earth, when you name the planet like that, you put capital EARTH. If I say, I'm going to check out the Earth on using a telescope. Since you didn't name it like a planet, that one's kind of sketchy. And so sometimes, depending on how you use it, if you think of Earth as in just dirt or ground, you're not needing to capitalize it. If you can tell that you're naming the planet, then you would put a capital. Number 12, galaxy, singular. GALAXY. One more time, we have a consonant Y, so we get to practice that singular to plural consonant Y transformation. Plural, galaxies. GALAX. Drop the Y and add IES. There are many galaxies in our universe. Galaxy, apostrophe S, something that belongs to the galaxy. The galaxies, planets are, and then you can name all of our planets or of our solar system. Galaxies, plural, possessive, belongs to more than one galaxy. And the name of our galaxy is the Milky Way. The Milky Way is a galaxy and also a candy. In both cases, you would have to capitalize them. And so you have to decide, am I talking about a group of planets or part of our solar system, or am I just talking about a candy bar? Notice I didn't say candy bar because we're not naming the candy bar. Okay, so there it is. Check the context. Are we talking about a galaxy, or are we talking just about a candy bar? All right, last one. Thanks for your patience on how to do this. Solar system, singular, singular. Two words, SOLAR space, because I've got to practice. If I want to start transitioning over to a computer, I've got to push the space bar one time between words. SY, and I see that I'm missing the S there. And so I would get that wrong because there needed to be an S right there. It's not solar system, it's solar system. I did the second one correct. Singular, plural, solar systems. Solar has having to do with the sun. How many different solar systems are there? Well, there's probably one solar system for each sun that's out there in the universe. Solar system, singular, possessive. Something that belongs to the solar system. I'll use my hula hoop this time because of the apostrophe. SOLAR space SYSTEM apostrophe S. Solar systems, plural, possessive, something that belongs to more than one solar system. SOLAR space SYSTEMS apostrophe. And again, you draw your possessive wall. This belongs to the solar systems. Okay, so let's go to part 2. I want you to look at my weird drawing of Texas. And I would love for you to take a moment, pause the video right now, and don't look at the picture there in the corner or my drawing. As you can see, my drawing was pretty off, but at least I got the general idea of what Texas looks like. And so take a moment to pause the video, close your screen if you have to, and on a blank sheet of paper, draw what you think Texas looks like, and I'll continue in a moment. Just pause the video. All right. All right, as you can see, I used black for the drawing of the state, and I want you to see there's 20 GPS locations in and around Texas that are going to be worth 5 points each. And I want you to see the colors that I use. If I wrote a country, here's my little guide. I wrote the countries in green. We have 2 countries. The United States of America is Texas and all of the other 49 states. And down here below, also in green, is Mexico, capital Mexico. The major cities in Texas, including my own, Up on the top part, we'll go from north to south. Capital Amarillo, double consonant on the L. Capital Lubbock, double consonant on the B. Capital L space capital Paso is over here. And so you would have your kids draw in these, and then afterwards, you're going to see how well they can remember the cities, the states, the countries, and the bodies of water, because I want to be familiar with where I live and what's around where I live. Two big cities that are side by side are Capital Fort, space, Capital Worth, and Capital Dallas. So Dallas is to the east, Fort Worth is a little bit to the west. A little bit lower is Capital Austin, and I've done these in orange. You can pick any color you want. Austin is a little bit north of Capital San, space, Capital Antonio. Houston is off to the right. This is where my son, my my one of my sons, Zachary, my two daughters, Cherise and Kanea, my wife Valerie, and her sister Jolene are staying right now because they're helping Zachary move from another apartment complex from the one, well, the same apartment complex, but a different apartment. Down here at the bottom, we have a section of Texas called the Rio Grande Valley. So when you all ask me where I live in this lower portion of Texas. And if you want to get more specific GPS, I live in a city called Alamo that's here at the bottom tip. Another city that's pretty known across Texas and the United States is South Padre Island. So if you're down in the valley portion of South Padre Island, they call it South Padre Island because it's further south. And up here near Corpus Christi, which I left off, not intentionally, is just what we call Padre Island. And I know that it goes further, but um, I just wanted you to get the general idea of how to do this with your kids. So then we have some states. We don't want our kids in the state of confusion. We want them to know their state and all the surrounding states. So I did those in black. Our state is called Capital Texas. Either like the drawing that you drew if it's pretty good, or like the one that I put right there in the background to kind of help you when it comes to drawing our state. Our surrounding states to our east is Louisiana. Notice that it has two eyes, a couple of important things. We take pictures of that to kind of remember, and has a double consonant on the A. To our northeast, we have Arkansas. It looks like to students like Arkansas, but the S is silent in Arkansas. So if you take off the AR, it's Kansas, yes. But if you add the AR, then you take off the S and make it silent. Arkansas. North of us is the state of Oklahoma. Has two A's. The home of many people is in Oklahoma. And so, got to think of something to help us remember the spelling of the state to our north. And apparently, because the country below us is called Mexico, we wanted a state that represented it. So, New Mexico is our northwestern state. Okay, so there's our states. And then one more, some bodies of water, since water is hopefully blue, unless it's very well polluted. We have in the southeastern portion of Texas, we have the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf, space, no capital of, space, Mexico. And the river that separates our country from Mexico is called the Rio Grande River. That was just kinesthetic. If I say capital Rio space, capital Grande space, capital River space, that would be just verbal. If your kids really struggle with capitalization and spacing, then you would do both. Capital River space, capital Grande space, capital River, and then space if you're going to have another word, or space, space if you're ending a sentence and having to put a punctuation. So there you have it. I wanted to make sure that you understood that we're going to get some reading passages that are related to places, whether it's a place in Texas, the United States, another country, or another continent. And so unless I can relate to that because of my teacher who teaches geography or US, Texas, world history, I'm not going to be able to know a lot about those things. And so subject writing across grade levels, make sure that when you're referencing those things, when your kids get asked reading questions about places, they'll already be able to know, oh, is that a is that a street? Is that a city, a county, a country, sorry, a state, a country, a continent? Is it a planet? Is it a solar system or galaxy? Or is that the entire universe? So please feel free to share this. I recommend, if you like swag, our next swag video is going to be um, and editing is still going to be spelling, but I'm going to focus on homophones because in editing, one of the biggest mistakes the kids make is they are really good at seeing the word, but if you don't pay attention to that, those words look differently, even though they sound the same, you won't know which homophone to teach. So as part of our swag spelling writing across grade levels, that's $10 in on my website, and it will be followed by sentence writing across grades, where you have to have a sentence that starts with a capital subject verb agreement called usage and ending with punctuation, hopefully using your dictionary to spell correctly. And finally, subject writing across grade levels, where I'm going to give you lots of different ways to scaffold writing, to support writing across subjects so that we can help the reading teachers regardless of what topics the passages are about, because we go to PE, music, theater, different sports, social studies, science, math, and even our experiences in our home. And when we're traveling, all of those background experiences are going to help us relate to reading content, as long as everybody does subject writing across grade levels and hopefully sentence or sentences writing across grades. Please share this video if you felt like it was helpful. I tried to show you visually, verbally, auditorily, and kinesthetically how to teach kids spelling based on usage, punctuation when we have possessive, capitalization if it's a proper noun, and one way to do it with geography, Texas world, or US history. Thank you guys. God bless. Do me a favor and like the video on Facebook, share or tag your writing teacher friends, your reading teacher friends, because remember that part of next year's test is going to be editing as field test items. We're going to be getting questions on cups as well as run-ons and fragments in editing, which we'll get into on the editing webinar only, that one that's $50. We won't get into that too much with our swag webinar, which is $10. Thanks and God bless you guys. Have an awesome day. Hope you're enjoying your summer.